Hey everyone, we finally have our grape and blackberry trellis project to share with you. This has been a bit of a long time coming. We've been working on this off and on for the past few months. I think if you're really determined, you could probably knock this out in like 2 weekends, but we were just being a little bit slower, so it took us a little bit longer, but I think it turned out awesome. So I want to give you guys a little bit of context on why we wanted to build this. So we have our driveway right here, and we thought this would be a really great place to grow blackberries and grapes. And obviously we need to trellis those plants, so we decided to build this trellis for them. So what we have are 3 grape plants. I've got a Lamanto and a 2 muscadines. And then down at the end we have a couple of blackberry plants. That's an Arapaho and blank on the other one. Kiwa, yes, thank you. So we've got a couple blackberries and grapes, and we just thought it'd be fun to try and see if we could grow them and also build this really cool trellis. So this is called a single high cordon trellis, and the reason why we chose this is primarily for the grapes. So when we have the grapes here, we're going to eventually train them to grow up all the way up to this top wire, and they're going to spread out in 2 different directions, and the grapes are going to just grow over this top wire. So we have this here for them, and these wires in between are basically just guide wires. And we figured since these guide wires aren't necessarily going to be used as much as this top wire, we knew we wanted to grow blackberries, and so this was a really great option for us to grow both, because the blackberries will use these middle wires as well. So it seemed like it was the best of both worlds. We're excited to grow both and have kind of a dual purpose trellis here. Okay, let's talk about how we made our trellis. And then first of all, this H-brace right here. So these are some 5-inch posts, these ones on the end, and this is a 4-inch post that we got from Tractor Supply. We have 4 of these larger posts, 2 here and the 2 on the ends, and then 2 of these smaller 4-inch posts, 1 here and then 1 on the end. So really, to get started, it was pretty easy. We dug a hole in the ground and sank these posts in, and then put some of the Quikrete in here and water, and it dried, and now it's nice and strong and sturdy. We made this post, we actually cut it off at a 45 and to make it a little bit small, or a little bit shorter than this one. It's a stylistic thing, you don't have to do that, but we thought it looked pretty cool, and we cut this at a 45. So I think it turned out really nice, and I'm really happy with kind of this look of the higher and lower posts. So definitely up to you if you want to do that. So the next thing that we did is we measured, and just so you know, this is about 6 feet long. Again, kind of up to you to decide how long you want to make it, but we thought that this is probably a pretty good length for our trellis. So the next step is that we drilled a hole here to get ready to nail this post in. So once we had our post kind of wedged in between here, being held up, before we really secured it in here, we took a 10-inch brace pin. We put it through our hole that we pre-drilled and hammered it in. So we have a brace pin on this side, and then we have another one down here as well. So then now it's nice and secure with that brace pin. It's not going to move. So this is ready to go. So once we had all that installed and done, we stained it to match our garden boxes and our garden. Again, not something you have to do, but we thought it turned out really nice, and I think it looks super clean, and I'm glad that it all matches everything else in our garden. So the next thing we had to do is work on this triangular wire right here, this one that goes at an angle. So we want to have this wire here, obviously, to make sure that we triangulate and we have the weight separate between the 2 poles so they don't concave in. So we took our 12 gauge wire here. We first made an eyelet down at the bottom. So we made an eyelet. We used a crimp to crimp it on here, and so then we made an eyelet. We put it through the eyelet and came up, wrapped it around this taller pole here, and we have this medium gripple. We use the gripple to hold the weight, and we can also tension the wire this way. So we use this, and we have a tensioning tool. We tension this, and now it's ready to go. It's now nice and tense, and we have our weight distributed when we put on the other wires. So the next step was installing. Pretty much had the H brace done at this point. Now we have to do all of our wires. So like I said, we use 12 gauge wire, which is kind of a medium wire for grapes. You can certainly go a thicker gauge to have it be really strong. You could even go with a little less strength wire, but this was kind of right in the middle, and I think really perfect for what we need. So we got this 12 gauge wire from Home Depot, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4 different wires here. So we start off with this bottom one, which the bottom one is only going to be used for irrigation. We haven't installed it yet, but this is going to be for a drip line, and we'll buy a drip line here. We actually already got a hose bib installed in the middle of our trellis. So this isn't necessarily going to hold any grapes or blackberries, but it is really nice right now because our plants are pretty small, so they are using this wire right now to kind of help them be held up. So we took our 12 gauge wire, well, first we unraveled it. We did have a small issue where it's because it comes in a circular reel, and we were trying to unravel it, and it got, I guess, twisted on itself, and unfortunately to throw it away because we can't untwist it. It was just so tight. So definitely be careful when you're unraveling it to make sure that you unravel it so it's all nice and straight. So we had this unraveled. We started on the far end. We made an eyelet just like we made here. We wrapped it around the far pole and then brought it all the way through, and then made a loop here, then used a medium gripple so we could tension it and it would hold tension. And that was pretty much it. It was pretty easy, not too much involved with that. We just had to do it 4 different times. So once we got all of our wires up, we secured it to our T-post, which we had already put in place, and I'll show you how we secured it to the T-post. All right, so one thing I did mention was these T-posts, which are obviously very important because they help hold up the wire. We have, I guess, 1, 2, 3 of these T-posts. They're about 20 feet apart, and we just basically bang them into the ground. We did have to use our level to kind of make sure that they were going out straight and down, and so we didn't have T-posts that were all wonky. So that did take a little bit of time to make sure that they were perfectly level and kind of straight up and down. So I want to show you guys, we actually had this hose bib installed here pretty recently, which was super convenient, thankfully really helpful when we install our drip line for the grapes on this bottom wire here. But we use these little hooks to hold the trellis onto the T-post. They're basically kind of like little U's, and you just put it around here and kind of tighten it, and they just hold on to the T-post. So it's pretty convenient, nice little thing we did at the end just to make sure that it's all nice and secure, and if we have high winds or anything like that, we're not worried about the wires coming off and our plants going crazy. So that's it for our grape trellis. I think it turned out really good. Of course, we're not quite done because we didn't install that drip line, but we're pretty much there. I'm really happy with how this turned out, and I'm really excited to see our plants grow, and hopefully they really like it. As you can see, we still have some empty spaces for plants, and right now it's early, well, I guess it's almost mid-August at this point, so it's not really ideal planting time. We were going to wait until the spring to buy some new plants, so then the weather's a little bit better for planting. So for right now, we're just going to keep these open, and then the spring we'll probably buy maybe 2 or 3 more blackberries and maybe 2 or 3 more grapes to put on this side. So also I want to have a caveat, this is not a dead blackberry plant. We actually, that was actually growing kind of rogue in my garden, and blackberries, at least in Texas, they grow almost wild here. So we dug it up and just planted in the ground. Some of the leaves look pretty dead, but it's actually like growing a new blackberry plant. These things are extremely hardy, so we kind of just left it there to see what'll happen. Of course, if it doesn't make it, we'll buy a brand new plant in the spring. But again, really excited with how this turned out. I think it turned out really nice, and thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions about how we built this trellis, please leave me a comment in the comment section and I will get back to you. But thanks again for tuning in. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all again next time.